the Justice Department supports and defends the First Amendment right of parents to complain as vociferously as they wish. I can't imagine any circumstance in which the Patriot Act would be used in the circumstances of parents complaining about their children, nor can I imagine a circumstance where they would be labeled as domestic terrorism.
Didn't you just wish that guy was on the Supreme Court? Well, new whistleblower documents reveal that one day before Attorney General Merrick Garland denied targeting concerned parents, the FBI was secretly planning to do just that. Now, on October 20th, the FBI's Criminal and Counter-Terror Division issued a memo asking agents to use a so-called threat tag to track investigations and assessments of threats specifically directed against school board administrators and other school personnel. In other words, they're spying on parents who question or criticize the dictates of far-left educrats. Well, what's truly shocking? Well, we probably would never have known any of this if an unnamed whistleblower hadn't come out, spoken out, reached out to Republicans on the House Oversight Committee. Joining me now is the committee's ranking member, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. Now, Congressman, did the AG, was he telling the truth to Congress, or would you be willing to believe he really didn't know what was being planned by his own Justice Department at the time?
Well, he either lied to us or he doesn't know. Either one is bad for the country, bad for justice in America. Understand this, Laura, as we speak, at this moment, the FBI is, not maybe, is treating parents as terrorist threats. And the Attorney General came in front of the committee and said just the opposite. And you just played the clip. He says, I cannot imagine any circumstance where we treat parents or we give them the label of domestic terrorists. But in fact, the day before, as you pointed out, the day before, an email gets sent out to agents across this country saying just the opposite. Say spy on parents, give them this threat tag, categorize, label parents. And when I first read this memo, I thought, this is no different than what the IRS did just a few years ago when they had remember the BOLO list? Be on the lookout for these kind of organizations using these kind of words. And they had a list of American citizens just like the FBI is doing now. So he either didn't know, which is terrible, or he misled the committee when he came in front of us, and we need to have him back, plain and simple.
Well, what he said, though, is we're not criminalizing or accusing people who disagree. That's a constitutional right to disagree. We would not do that. This is about actual threats of violence. And to that you say?
Well, remember how this all started. We got to understand the timeline. September 29th, a left-wing political organization asked the President of the United States to get the FBI involved in local school board matters. 5 days later, the Attorney General does just that. October 20th, we have this email that goes out to across the nation about this threat tag. And then October 21st, he comes in front of the committee and tells us all this. October 22nd, the organization that started it all apologizes for their memo and withdraws, or excuse me, for their letter and withdraws their letter. But yet, Merrick Garland, we've asked him, will you rescind the memo? Will you stop this, what you've put in place, what you've put into action? He will not rescind it. He will not withdraw it. He will not stop it. That's the part that concerns me. And we have sent now countless letters. We've lettered to the FBI, back to Merrick Garland, to the School Board Association, to the Education Department, all these entities. We've sent letters. We need answers because it sure looks like, I think without a doubt, this is happening. They are targeting moms and dads across this country for simply speaking out and saying, we don't want this racist, hate America curriculum taught to our kids. Imagine that.
Well, Congressman, it seems to me that with the midterms coming up, and by the looks of it, it's going to be a Republican wipeout of the Democrats, they see that this issue is a potent one. And do you agree that the goal here is to intimidate parents against showing up and getting involved across the country? So this is like wildfire. It's catching on. They don't want it to happen.
Yeah, they're trying to chill First Amendment free speech. This is all about intimidating parents. But one thing I know, one thing you know, Laura, you're not going to intimidate moms and dads. No high-paid lobbyist, no bureaucrat ever beats a mom on a mission. The moms are fired up. And here's the great thing. Courage is contagious. We saw it in Virginia. One mom stands up, one dad stands up. Pretty soon it's a whole community, and they're saying, not with my kids. That is what is so wrong about this. And you're exactly right. The idea that this guy, Merrick Garland, was the smartest man on the planet, had to be on the Supreme Court, is such a crock. And the American people see. We saw him testify in front of our committee 3 weeks ago. He didn't even know there was a press release that accompanied his memo on October 4th, and that press release talked about getting the National Security Division, the Counterterrorism Division, involved in this effort. That is frightening. He didn't even know it, or if he did know it and misled us, that's even more wrong. So he better come back in front of our committee and be willing to answer some tough questions about this, and he should stop this process right now.
Do you think the Biden White House is putting undue influence on the Justice Department here for political reasons? That's a serious charge, because Psaki today said that's not happening. It's independent. They're independent. They're totally different from Trump. That's what her big point was today. Your reaction
Of course
to that?
they are. We now have press reports that the White House talked with the School Board Association before the initial September 29th letter was ever sent. We know that when President Biden goes out and criticizes the pro-life law in Texas, 8 days later, the Justice Department brings suit. We know that when President Biden went out and criticized the Georgia election law changes, a few weeks later, what happened? The Department of Justice, the Garland Justice Department, goes out and brings suit. And we know what happened here. A letter on the 29th that the White House coordinated with a left-wing political organization. 5 days later, they do exactly what this left-wing political organization asked for, and we find out now they're treating parents as domestic terrorists, when in fact the Attorney General told us just the opposite. Of course they're political. Anyone with half a brain can see that.
Yeah, what is it called? A terror tag or something like that? I mean, it's just,
well, it's called a threat tag, but you're right. It's a terrorist tag. That's right. It's a terrorist tag. That's exactly. It's called a threat tag, but it, in point of fact, is a domestic terrorist tag, is what they're putting on moms and dads, for goodness sake.
Congressman, thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.